Gonna hit the ground running, baby, I'm running, baby, I'm running, 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 running. Gonna hit the ground running, running, running just as fast as I can. Gonna hit the ground running, running, running just as fast as I can. Gonna hit the ground running. Ooh. Oh, running, baby, baby, running, running now. Ooh. Running just as fast as I'm running, just as fast as I can.
All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Daryl Stringer. Welcome to episode 1 of the Builder Photography Business Show, where I help photographers like you with photography, marketing, and pricing. This is my first ever live show, so let's just hope everything works. If it does, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, let's have a look at what we're going to look at today. And we are going to have an interview with a Kansas City photographer. We're going to look at some training on should you outsource your editing. And we're going to have a bit of a Q&A chat as well. So I think it's going to be fantastic. I think we're going to get through a lot of good stuff. So I hope you join in and enjoy it. I will also note, though, that we are streaming live to Facebook and YouTube. So if you leave a comment, I may highlight it during the show. So just keep that in mind. All right, I recently did an interview with Samantha Ward, who's a real estate photographer in Kansas City. This interview is pre-recorded, so let's roll the tape and we'll let Samantha introduce herself and we'll see what she'd like to share today. All right, Sam, can you just give us like a really brief introduction to you and your business?
Sure, Daryl. My name is Samantha Ward, and I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. I run Picture KC Real Estate and Commercial Photography here. It's me and my husband that do it together, and we serve the greater Kansas City area. We do real estate, videos, photos, and we do work for commercial builders and designers around the city.
If you had like 1 minute on stage in front of a big group of photographers, and you're speaking from your experience and things you've learned and things like that, what do you think you might say to a big group of photographers?
Well, I think there's a few things that you could say. One of the big things for me would definitely be a mentor. I find people in all industries starting their own business have a lot of benefit to having a mentor. And I see some of my customers, like investors and things like that, they talk about having their own mentors. And I was fortunate enough to have Daryl from the very beginning. And I don't think that our business would have grown as quickly as it did if I didn't have somebody to guide me on all of the different aspects that it entails. And the best ways to approach, because it's not just about photography, it's about your customer service, your marketing, your website ranking, your appearance. It's just a lot more complex. And if you have somebody to help you through that, then you don't have to spend so much time experimenting yourself. You have a lot, there's a lot of benefit to the guidance, and efficiency is probably the word I'm looking for. And one of the other things I would say is that it's important to know your worth, but to also bring it down a notch, because I feel there's two aspects of photography. There's some photographers that will go to the lowest bidder, and they don't allow themselves the true value of their work. And in order to be successful, you have to give yourself value. But on the same note, in order to have a nice, well-rounded business, you don't want to be going around shouting from the rooftops everything that you know. So it's important to stay humble and understanding that your clients are not going to necessarily understand the complexities of licensing. So, you know, I think it's important to know your worth, but not too much.
Yeah, I like, I mean, you're talking about just really staying really grounded, and being the kind of business that people want to be working with.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just treat others how you'd like to be treated, but especially yourself as well.
Yeah, cool. Good points. Um, you've been a part of my program for a little while now. What would you say to another photographer who was thinking of joining the reps program?
I think there's a lot of value to be found in the reps program. There's different aspects that some people may focus on more than another. There's tons of modules. There's a Facebook group, and Daryl spends a lot of time. He will answer your questions objectively and honestly, and ask you to ask yourself questions as well. Um, so while one area of it may not be valuable to one person, it's diverse enough to be valuable to a lot of people. And one of the main reasons I've been in it for so long is because of the diversity of resources available.
All right, thanks for that, Sam. So, look, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think a mentor would help you? What are your thoughts about giving yourself real value and charging appropriately, but still staying grounded, like not really getting carried away? And drop your ideas or questions in the comments. While you're doing that, I'm going to briefly mention the coaching program that Sam mentioned she's a part of. If you want to find out more about it, I've got some details there on my website, buildaphotographybusiness.com/reps. You can see some of what's there and get some pricing and all of that. So go and check that out. All right, let's get into some training. Now, one question that I see comes up a lot for real estate and architectural photographers is this: should I outsource my photo editing or should I do it all by myself? Now, let's look at the arguments for and against. And first up, we'll look at the arguments against outsourcing. And first of all, I think it's the cost. And it can typically be anywhere from about 50 cents up to $2 or $3 per photo. There are a lot, though, that are around about that $1 to $1.50 a photo. So if you're delivering 30 photos, your cost is going to be somewhere between about $15 and $45 per shoot. Now, I hear a lot of photographers say that they want to start outsourcing, but they can't afford those costs yet. And I understand that, and we'll speak more about that soon. Secondly, there's the issue of finding an editing company that consistently delivers the look that you want, and this can be difficult. A lot of editing companies seem to start off great, so they get you working with them, but over time they become more and more careless, and you can end up sometimes fixing it up a lot yourself, which really defeats the purpose of hiring them in the first place. So they're the main arguments against outsourcing. So now let's take a look at the arguments in favour of it. And first of all, I will once again mention the cost. And it's actually an argument in favour of it, not against. What it costs you to outsource the editing should be lower than what it costs you to do it yourself. And the problems come up when photographers don't know their numbers when it comes to pricing, and so they don't charge enough for their work. So here's what I mean. When you're putting your prices together, when we only think about the time it takes and nothing else, you'll want to factor in a few things. First of all, the time spent on site shooting, the travel time to and from the property, and the time that you would spend editing if you did it all yourself. So let's say you spend, say, 1 hour on site. So for that time, you might charge $100. Then you want to include travel time, and it might be 30 minutes there and 30 minutes back. And so you might allow, say, $80 for that time. And then finally, there's the time spent editing. And if it takes you an hour for editing, then what would you want to charge for that? Well, if it's time spent shooting is about $100 for an hour, then maybe time spent editing should be $100 for the hour as well. So when looking for an editor, if you can find someone to do it for less than what you would charge for your own time, then you're actually ahead when you outsource, because you're charging your client $100, but you're only paying the editor $45 to do that outsourcing for you. So yes, there is a cost associated with editing, but it should be a lower cost than what you would be paying yourself. And if it's not, right, if it's actually more expensive to have an editor in, another country somewhere do the editing for you, then your problem is your prices, not the cost of the editing itself. Now, the second argument in favor of outsourcing is the time it gives back to you to work on other areas of your business. So if you're currently spending 3 hours every evening doing your own photo editing, then that's 3 hours you could otherwise spend working on some new marketing material, learning new skills, or look, just spend time with your family. If you're not currently doing those things, then you really won't believe how fantastic it is to get that time back and to be able to put time into those things away from editing. The third argument in favor of outsourcing is that you want to be running a business. You don't want to just have another job. So as a business owner, you want to be moving yourself out of the business. So you don't want to be tied to it all the time as the one responsible for absolutely everything. It also sets you up well for when you do start hiring staff, because again, when you look at the numbers, it makes a lot more sense economically to have an editing company overseas somewhere do the editing than it will probably be to have an employee in the US or Australia or wherever you are do the editing. So you want to get those processes going now so that when you get busy and you need to bring someone else onto your team, you're already operating more like a business. So that change is going to be a much easier one to manage. Now, I hear what you're thinking. How do you actually find a good editor? Now, I'm not going to recommend a specific company today. What I will recommend, though, is a 4-step process for finding one that suits you. So here it is. Step 1 is to get yourself a small collection of your images, maybe an exterior shot that needs a sky replacement, maybe 2 or 3 of your interior shots, and send them to as many photo editing companies as you can. Some companies will edit a few photos for free, but even if it costs you a small amount, the information you'll gain from having 5 to 10 or more different editors doing the editing on the same set of photos will be super, super helpful. Step 2 is to review the work, the communication, and the speed at which they returned the images, and make notes on each company and carefully look at the whole service delivery, not just the quality of the editing. So overall, which companies stood out for you in the areas that are most important for you? Again, it might be speed, it might be quality, it might be price. Pick the ones that are important. Step 3 is to settle on 2 of your favorite companies. And then what you want to do is send both of those companies a full photo shoot for old properties, not new ones, but old ones, so a full set, and review their images in more detail. So again, are they delivering what you want? Do you need to make some changes? How good is their communication? Review the whole thing. Now, if you were disappointed with the work either of them do when you send them a full set of photos, maybe do the same thing with another photo editing company until you find 2 editors that you're really happy with. All right, step 4 then is to start working with probably 2 of the companies you selected. Now, having two companies that you regularly send work to is really helpful. It gives you a backup should one of them be too busy, and it means that if the standard of one of them drops, and it happens over time, they will sometimes drop off, you can continue working with the other company while you look for a replacement for the second one. So it's kind of like you would have two camera bodies in your kit bag, two flashes that you can use if one of them stops working. You might also like to have two photo editing companies available at all times that you can refer to. All right, so do you have any questions then about any of that? Let me know, drop a comment in, let me know, what questions you've got about anything that we've covered there today. And let me know what you thought about it or anything like that. If you've got any comments, drop them in. While you're doing that, here's where you can find me online. There's my email address. You'll find me on Facebook at Build a Photo Business, on Instagram as well, on YouTube or LinkedIn. So if you want to go and look at any other content that I've created, you'll find lots of other helpful videos in all of those spots. Okay. Well, I think that's about it then for today. So I hope you found that really, really helpful. Look, I hope to be doing some more of these live streams. We'll see how often I can get to them, hopefully next week. We'll see if I can. Look, thank you for joining in and watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.